is the microtheme preparation. We have discussed this thing in earlier lectures as well, that there are certain microthemes. Let us say we have charted around 400 to 450 microthemes. We would like to bring this point that multidimensionality, it rewards you into the examination hall. When an examiner sees, generally they take the time of, let us say, 1.5 to 2 minutes to go through your answer. What you can do is, I'm telling you a very basic exercise, that when you are reading up a newspaper, when you are reading the editorial articles that are there, what you can do, you can just read the article first, then think about it, try to interconnect it with different things. So we have discussed this X factor, which is the linking of the issues. So I would just revise the two: structured thinking, then structured thinking, the framework, how you have to prepare that framework while you are reading, while you are making the notes, while you are writing. Good evening, students. My name is Rohin Kumar, All India rank 39. And today we are having a session on X factors. We would be discussing as to what are the X factors in UPSC preparation. What is it that differentiates the students, those students who clear the examination in the very initial attempts, and all those factors by which some of the students, despite having lots of hard work, despite putting in their lots of efforts and labor, they are not able to clear this examination. So though there is no quantifiable limit to what can be the X factors, but we can at least try to reach out to some of the things which we have seen in the talks of those who are getting the ranks, which we have seen in the copies of those who are getting the ranks. So it is through these sources we have tried to chart out some of those X factors by which that difference is created within the copy of a rank holder, with the copy of a topper, or those who are not making it to the final list. So we would be listing all those X factors. What does it mean for the UPSC preparation? What are those X factors? And particularly, we would be discussing this in context of geography subject, which falls largely under the GS paper 1. So with that, we would be starting our session. In a couple of minutes, we would be having a deck also available. So till then, just to give you a context, I have appeared 5 times into this examination and cleared in my 5th attempt. And in this year's mains, I was able to improve my marks by 86 marks. Earlier, when I wrote my first mains, it was 765, the total score. And this time around, it is 851 marks. So it's a jump of around 86 marks. And in the 4 general studies paper only, I have made an increment of around 55 marks, which was 404 in 2023 and 459. So there were certain learnings that I had during my UPSC journey. So those X factors, they have sort of embedded into that journey. And I was able to figure out some of the things which now I can say that these are the things which generally work for some people. So I always give this caveat as well, that you have to decide your own X factors as well, which would be coming up in a manner when you would be approaching further in your journey. You would yourself be discovering some of the X factors that are largely there. So we all know that most of the students, they almost study same sources. They refer to the same books, NCERTs, the basic reference books, the basic notes. But despite that, some of the students, they excel into this examination, and some of them struggle in their attempts in this examination. So we would be charting out what are these X factors. So what difference does it generally creates is that we generally see some of the copies which fall in the category of average copies. They score around 70 to 80 marks. And there are copies which are scoring 100 plus, 110 plus, 120 plus. So this difference of 20 to 30 marks, or let us say 10, 12, 15 marks in each one of the papers, it creates lots of difference when it comes to all the five papers, including the essay paper and also the optional papers. So we would try to figure out all those factors which are there. Just to give you a basic idea about X factors, what does it actually mean? It involves those things which makes your preparation systematic, which reduces your efforts, which helps you optimize your efforts, and improve your examination score by the end of it. It involves certain components. We have tried to chart out some of the components which would fall under the X factors. Okay, so we would be dealing with that part. We have taken the subject of geography to deal with these X factors. We would be exploring as to what all are the reasons by which the difference is largely created. So basically, just to give you an idea, it involves your systematic studying. It involves how well you revise, how well you organize your test papers, how well you write, what is the structuring of your notes, of your I would say your answers while you are writing the answers. So all these things includes the X factors. We would be exploring these things in detail. We have tried to identify and able to reach up to 6 factors which more or less are overarching in nature, and they are of such nature that they cover most of the things that can help you improve your score. So first is the structured thinking. Mains is that part of your examination which involves your analytical abilities. It involves your capacity to analyze an issue from different perspectives. It is something that tests your in-depth knowledge. It tests your, I would say, your ability to interlinkage different things into under one issue. So it involves the structured thinking. What does structured thinking actually mean? Is that you tend to follow certain templates, you tend to make certain frameworks, you tend to make certain structures which makes the thing that you are approaching to be more systematic. Let us take, we would be referring to the geography X factor notes that we have prepared at Civilsdaily, by which we would be getting an idea that what is that structuring that needs to be there in your notes, what is that structuring that needs to be there in your revision, in your writing, so that you are able to optimize your efforts, so that you are not wasting your time on things which are not relevant for this examination. So we have tried to simplify that thing. Second involves the linking of the different issues, though we would be discussing these things in detail as well. So when we particularly talk about geography, or let us say UPSC per se, then interlinking of issues is something that becomes very important. It brings out your diversity of opinions that you hold, and it brings out your capacity to look at your surrounding, to look at the society or the issue from different angles by which you can explore that particular topic. So it becomes very important. Let us say we are discussing a topic from general studies paper 1, then it is not that we would be discussing that thing particularly in isolation. We would be having certain linkages. The very popular approach that is there, which is the pestle approach, which generally covers all those dimensions by which we can explore a particular topic. Okay, so all these, basically what we talk about is that this is basically a repository of knowledge, and knowledge does not exist in isolation. So any issue that is occurring in society, be it a social issue related to women, be it a geopolitical issue or a geopolitical crisis, most of the things are having an interlinkage. Economic, let us say economic issues are having a bearing of political structures, how political structures or governance frameworks they work. It have a direct linkage with that as well. And if we see any topic from that angle, then we would be in a position to see that most of the things are having an interlinkage. So it becomes very important for an aspirant to develop those skills by which they are able to bring things at a point, and they are able to establish those interlinkages and provide a wholesome understanding of that particular topic. Okay. Third X factor that is there is the microtheme preparation. We have discussed this thing in earlier lectures as well, that there are certain microthemes. Let us say we have charted around 400 to 450 microthemes. These are the topics upon which the UPSC focuses most often, and these are the areas where UPSC tries to cover most of the things. And we would be seeing that in all the GS papers, or let us say in your optionals, there would be certain areas upon which the UPSC asks question very often. We have tried to chart out those micro themes as well. So when you are doing that systematic study in your subjects, let us say for polity or for geography, or for instance any other subject, you would identify certain micro themes that are there. Let us say, for if you are reading for environment, then pollution becomes an important micro theme, land degradation becomes an important micro theme, climate change becomes an important micro theme. So these are some of the areas upon which UPSC tries to focus, and it is upon these areas that we would be capitalizing and banking most of our efforts upon. Okay, so this was something that was related to your reading part. So when we are talking about those X factors, we can basically divide them into two parts. First, it would be your reading part, where you are covering things up, where you are consolidating your content matter, where you are referring to different sources and trying to bring them out on one place. This is one part, reading part, or your consolidation of the material. The second thing that comes up is the practice part or the writing part. We are focusing largely upon the mains portion, but it also includes your prelims wala section as well. So when it comes to practice, there are certain X factors that needs to be kept in mind. We would be discussing these things in detail. So we have tried to identify one X factor which is there, that the multidimensionality that needs to be brought up into your answers. You need to write answers in such a way that they does not become monotonous. Let us say you are addressing an issue of society, you are talking about a question on society, and you are largely referring to things which are sociological in nature. That doesn't cover the whole picture. So what you have to do is you have to chart out other factors as well which are contributing into that particular issue. So if let us say if patriarchy is surviving as a as a social reality, then we also know that it is surviving because of one of the biggest reasons, which is dependence of one gender on the other gender. So why this dependence is created? This dependence is largely created because of the monopolization of the resources, because of the monopolization of the modes of production, the resources that are controlled by one particular gender, and the deprivation of the other gender. So this dependence of one upon the other has created the evils of patriarchy that we see today. So if we have to address an issue of patriarchy, then we cannot ignore the economic aspects of it. We cannot ignore the political aspects of it. We cannot ignore other social realities that might be regional in nature, local in nature, that is contributing towards the survival of such a system. So it is here that we would like to bring this point, that multidimensionality, it rewards you into the examination hall. When an examiner sees, basically generally they take the time of, let us say 1.5 2 minutes to go through your answer, and if they are able to see that you are linking things up and you are bringing that diversity of different things which are responsible for a particular thing. Let us say if there is an, because we are talking about largely about geography, then there is issue of landslide, let us say. So how landslide is caused, this is one thing. Second is that what are the different factors because of which landslides are caused. There would be both natural factors, there would be also anthropogenic factors which are contributing towards the occurrence of landslides in different parts of the country or across the world. So it is these different factors which are contributing to landslides which brings multidimensionality within our answers. We see that anthropogenic factors like the deforestation that goes on, the expansion of agriculture, the expansion of resorts in the hotspot regions of the Western Ghats, let us say, which are seeing lots of landslides nowadays. We also see some of the anthropogenic factors, that some disaster might occur, that there is issue of solifluction, there is heavy downpour because of which the vegetation is damaged and gradually the land subsides or something like that. Okay, so it is these things that we have to focus upon. Next comes the maps, diagrams and data. it becomes very important. Basically, it forms part of the value addition thing that is there. So it is this value addition that creates a difference. And when we are talking about, students are generally confused that they generally prepare themselves to overload within those answers. I always say this thing, that you have to rationalize with your efforts as to which all are the things that are sufficient enough that you need to put in. People sometimes do that, they are writing 10 examples in an answer of all the 10 points that they are writing. What sometimes, it sometimes creates an issue. What issue does it create? That we sometimes unnecessarily try to put in some examples, some data, some figures which might not be relevant with respect to the question that is being asked. So first thing that has to be there is that we have to focus upon the demand of the question, that what the question is actually trying to ask. Then we have to contextualize our value addition material that would be there. So what generally this includes with respect to geography is that some maps, some basic diagrams. We would be discussing that some of the templates that we would be discussing for different sections of geography, where these things would become more clear. So here, some data that you might write in your answers, or let us say some diagrams, some basic sketches that can add some value to your answer. Next, again, is part of the value addition thing only, that what you write, what UPSC generally rewards. So what one of the things that UPSC rewards, apart from the content that is there, is the contextuality of what you are writing. It is very important that you write only contextual things. If we are talking about, let us say, cyclone, the formation of cyclone, if there is a question which talks about, let us say, we are referring to a question that was asked last time, what is tsunami, how tsunamis are formed, what are the impacts, that consequences of formation of the tsunamis, like this, there was a question. So we don't have to write everything about tsunamis that we know. What we would be writing, we have to contextualize what is being asked. We have to focus upon those aspects upon which the examiner is trying to focus. What is tsunami? Simply explain what is tsunami. Just do away with that. Second, how tsunamis are formed. Second section of your main body would be that how tsunamis are formed, as if you would describe the whole phenomena, that there are different factors which both involves the natural factors as well as the anthropogenic factors, because of which tsunamis are called. Natural factors, there can be some, let us say, some submarine volcano that might have occurred. There can be some landslide that occurred on the surface of the sea, because of which the tsunamis might be caused. Earthquake is one of the biggest reasons for the cause of the tsunamis. Anthropogenic factors are there, that testing of the weapons, sometimes it might trigger some tsunami events, though at a small scale. And there would be other factors like deep sea mining, which is leading to some of the issues of the submarine landslides that might occur, that can lead to tsunamis. So this is how we try to contextualize the things that UPSC is focusing upon, rather than writing everything that we know about the topic. So let us say we have to make a structure of a particular answer. Let us say we would be referring to the other X factor notes that are there. So these are the X factor notes for geography that have been prepared for GS paper 1. You can refer to them. They have tried to identify from the previous year questions of 13 years. They have mapped some of the micro themes that are there. So it is part of the structured thinking as only, that there has to be identification of the micro themes first. Second, we would be collecting certain data points, certain examples, certain case studies that can be used in your answers. Then some diagrams, maps, and frameworks. Okay, so this is the structured thinking that we are talking about. That first, we would be referring to the questions that have been asked in the previous year. What that will do, it will help you first identify the important themes that are there. Second, it will give you a glance at how the UPSC frames questions upon certain topics. When we would be seeing this thing in detail, let us come to the first part only. So what we have basically done is in this section that we have tried to prepare some templates for the previous year questions. First section is climatology. So we have done this for climatology, oceanography, geomorphology, then environmental biogeography and economic geography. We have tried to prepare some templates of the answers which you can refer, and when you are having these templates in your mind, so what will happen that when you go to the examination hall, then you are not someone who is sitting and thinking that what do I write now, how do I start my answer, what would be the things that I should include in this answer. So if you have certain templates that are prepared beforehand, and these templates are of such nature that they are prepared in an overarching manner. Overarching, that means that it would be covering most of the points that you can write in the questions that would be asked from the section of climatology. The templates for oceanography, that would help you address most of the questions that would be asked from the oceanography section. So just for an example, we are seeing it is part of that structured thinking only, that when you are starting the first thing with your preparation, what you have to do is just segregate the question, try to go through those questions and look what is the pattern that can be seen within these questions. Okay, so they've asked about tsunamis, how they are formed, what are the consequences, what is the phenomena of cloudburst, what are australis and aurora borealis, how these are triggered. So basically, geography is a discipline which focuses upon certain phenomena that occur on the surface of the earth, both terrestrial as well as the submarine surfaces. The occurrence of these phenomena, and what are these phenomena? Volcanoes, land, different types of landforms, earthquakes, tsunamis, different phenomena that occur, their occurrence, their spatial distribution, and at last it comes that what impact does it have upon its surrounding one. That, let us say, a mountain, what impact does a mountain have on the course of a river, or vice versa, that what impact does a river have on the mountains. So one, with the surrounding, and second, what impacts does it have on the human life or the human beings. Okay, and the different species that are there. So this is basically upon which the premise of geography largely exists, that the occurrence of certain phenomena, how they occur, where they occur, which is the spatial distribution of those phenomena, and at the end, what impacts that they might create on the environment as well as upon the human beings. So you would see that pattern in these questions as well, that they are asking what is this particular thing here, tsunamis, how they are formed, what are the consequences, explain with examples. So they are asking about examples. So it is here that we would be integrating the other X factors, that when you are reading a particular thing, first is that you do the basic foundational work that is needed for each one of the topic, then you build upon the value addition part that is there. Second question, you see what is phenomena of cloudburst, explain. What are aurora australis and borealis, how these are triggered. What is sea surface temperature rise, how does it affect the formation of tropical cyclones. Okay, so you are seeing that the things that we have already highlighted, that they are focusing upon the phenomena, how they are formed, and where they are generally observed and certain. So what we have learned from here, that there are 4 to 5 aspects or 4 to 5 themes or dimensions upon which UPSC generally focuses with respect to the geography questions. I've repeated it multiple times, repeating in one last time, the phenomena itself, its distribution, how does it occur, and what impacts does it have. So this is how you try to systematize or try to do that structuring. So the next time you would be reading geography, you won't be spending most of your time upon things which are not relevant with respect to the examination. Okay, you would be focusing upon things which are important for the examination and that can be used in the examination. So what are these things? Database introductions. So you would be following a certain structure. I always say this thing, that when you prepare your notes, when you read certain topics from your textbooks, try to have that framework in mind as if you are writing an answer. I always say this thing. When you are doing such a thing, let us say you're writing an answer, you have written 10 answers, and you have come with a framework that I would be in introduction, either I need a definition, I need an elaboration of the concept, I need certain data points, or some current event that I might write in the introduction part to start my answer. Second thing would be that when I'm exploring the main body, which is the second part of the structure of the question, you would be addressing certain dimensions within which it will depend entirely upon the question as to which thing they are asking. Let us say for geography they are asking the phenomena of that, but how does that thing that occurs. So next time you would be reading, so it is these things that you have to keep in mind, that how does that occur. Next dimension is what impact does it have, how can we curb it, and at the end of it some conclusion, which is something that you gives an end to your answer. And end is something that should be hopeful in nature, that is indicative of some optimism, that gives some vision, that gives some solution or something of that sort. So when you would be thinking and planning your content matter in such a series, that these all are the things that I need from this particular topic. You are reading cloudbursts. All you would be focusing upon the next time is that what is the definition of cloudburst. You would read that definition. What is there any data point that I can refer to with respect to cloudburst as to how much they have increased in the last decade or last 2 decades? This is one data point. Which all are the hotspots or the areas where generally these cloudbursts they occur. So when you are systematizing your preparation in such a manner, which is again I'm giving the reference of an answer, keep the framework of an answer in your mind. You would read things which are only relevant for the examination one. You would prepare your notes in such a manner that you are not wasting your efforts. Okay, so you have to keep that framework in mind. It will give that structure that is much needed. Second is again the value addition part, which is map, location factors, theories that you might cite. So it is here that these X factor notes, they would be helpful to you. I'll just give you an context here that how these notes have been prepared. So first is the template part for each one of the sections that I've said. Then what has been done is started with the important topics of geography. So this is the framework of X factor notes that are there. We are talking about different X factors, but it is that part which will help you in making some structured content. It will reduce your efforts in such a manner that you are not wasting any time out there. Okay, so what they have done, water resources, they have tried to, anyone who can solve the problems of water will be some quotations that can be used in water resources. When can you use them? Let us say if you are exploring a topic that is related to issue of the decline of groundwater resources, let us say, then you can include this in your quotation part. Sometimes if you are not finding anything, then you can use these things in the introduction part as well. But again, I would say that it has to be very contextual. You cannot write a quotation related to water or water resources in each one of the answer. It will depend entirely upon the nature of the question that is there. First, certain quotations. Second is certain data points. So this is one of the most celebrated, that India has around 18% of population and 4% of the fresh water resources across on the planet. So like these, again, this data point, the annual rainfall averages and per capita availability 100, and so they have provided the rank as well, 133rd rank. And there is one additional data point with respect to India only, that I used to refer to, that the per capita availability of water, it has reduced to it is around below 1100 cubic per meter. So this reduction has been very significant when we compare with respect to right after our independence. So it was around 1800 or 1900 cubic meters per capita per person at that time. but it has significantly reduced, and we are falling in the category of a water stressed country. So these are some of the data points that have been there. They have tried to integrate a, a bar, um, a diagram as well. Here they have talked about the distribution of water on earth, then some key concepts that are there with respect to water resources. What is water scarcity, what is water stress, what is water risk, and a standard definition for that. When we talk about a standard definition, guys, do this thing as the first thing. Whenever you are referring to a topic, prepare a good definition of it. I'm not saying that you have to memorize the whole verbatim of the standard definition, just a few good keywords from there, and also the whole idea that it tries to encapsulate. Okay, so you would be referring to certain definitions, standard definition for most of the topics. For inclusive growth, OECD has provided a standard definition, and for all other topics. So first go through the definition, the key concept that is there, and that would be the starting of it. Okay. Second is water stress. What is water risk? So these are technical terms in itself, which have certain definitions. Then we have tried to explore that what are the regions of water scarcity in India. So we have referred to what is water scarcity, what are the reasons of water scarcity in India, and these points that are written here, which is demand supply imbalance. So Niti Aayog report has been cited here. Over extraction and resource mismanagement, that is there. So over extraction, particularly in the agriculture field. So out of the groundwater resources that are extracted, a large part of it, which is more than 2/3 of it, it is utilized in either agriculture or the industrial sector rather than the household sectors. So it is these certain data points that you might cite to give to make your arguments strong when you are writing certain points. Okay. India extracts 25% of world's groundwater. So this is a prominent data point that is generally utilized with respect to the water scarcity. Then pollution and environmental neglect, as a result of which the freshwater resources, they are depleting. We are seeing that our freshwater resources of ponds, of rivers, lakes, these are declining because of the huge influx of pollutants into these water resources, and we are not able to utilize them properly. Okay, so I'm just giving you an idea here that how can you do that. We were talking about one of the X factors as the diagrams, the presentation part basically. So here what you can do is that you can make certain diagrams, which is, again, you don't have to make complex diagrams. I always say this thing, that you have seen a map. So these are the maps which gives you an good understanding on an overall idea as to what extent the issue of water scarcity or water stress exists in India. But when it comes to real examination, what you have to do is just simply make a diagram of, make a map of India and highlight the areas, the red regions, sometimes they are called, the red hotspots with respect to where the groundwater resources is declining, which is largely the region of the Green Revolution belt that is there. It is the regions where water is exploited for industries, for agriculture particularly. So you can make simple diagrams here. So we are integrating most of the things, which is the structure that has to be there, a standard definition, then explore the topic from different dimensions, and what all these dimensions would be, that you would get an idea when you are reading the previous year questions that are there. So these regions, why we are exploring the regions, because we are seeing that when UPSC is asking a question on certain issue, it is primarily focusing that what is the underlying region of that particular problem or that particular issue. So we have to explore that anyway. Okay, we have to make the points from different let us say we were talking about the multidimensionality that was there. First is the mismanagement of the resources, and that second is the environmental factor, that how when environment is degrading, that is also contributing to water stress, how climate change is contributing to that, what are the governance challenges because of which we are facing the issue of water stress, which is basically the aging infrastructure. We see that the water distribution infrastructure that is there in the country, it is highly challenged. We see that the leakages that happen. So there was a data point that around 30 to 40% of water that is being supplied from the points to the households, 30 to 40% is leaked in between only. So it's a very significant challenge that exists with respect to the distribution of water, which would fall under the governance, which is the we can say, we can relate it to the political aspect of it. Okay. Next is the societal awareness and behavior as well, that how traditional practices they use to help us curb such issues of water stress, because we have been utilizing, though it is we are not denying the fact that the population stress is one of the reasons because of which it is increasing, but humans have been utilizing waters in the past as well, but they used to utilize and replenish the resources hand in hand. So some of the behavioral changes that are there that we see in our day-to-day lives as well, because of which the water resources are getting depleted. So what we have seen, some societal reasons behind it, political reasons, economic reasons, environmental reasons, because of which all of these things are happening. Next part is that what are the impacts of it. We are again seeing economic impacts, social impacts, agriculture, what impact it can have upon agriculture and food security, ecological and environmental impacts, political and federal impacts. We see the issue of the river water disputes between the states as well, between the nations. So it is because of these, the scarcity of water, that we see some political issues also arising. So the idea that we are trying to cover here is, look, they have integrated the point of international and strategic impact as well. The classic examples of China building the dams upon the upstream of the Indian rivers, or the issues that are related to Bangladesh. So we see certain issues in our own neighborhood also. So we were discussing about the structure that should be there in your notes. So guys, I'm repeating it for one last time, that keep that thing in mind, that which all are the dimensions which have UPSC tried to cover, and while writing an answer, what all are the things that you find to be necessary. That should be the things that you would be reading, that would be the things that you would be covering up in your notes. Okay. So that multidimensionality is covered with the pastoral approach. Then visionary conclusion. Second is the interlinking of different issues. So how can you interlink a particular topic or a particular concept with different, let us say, different subjects, with all the GS papers that are there. So this interlinking or connecting of dots, it really helps you in this examination. And once you master this art, and how that would be done, that would be done when you are doing the foundational work. Make yourself a thought-provoking person who is thinking about that topic. Let us say you have read a topic for 2 hours, you have completed the topic. Just take out 5 minutes, take out 10 minutes, and try to interconnect. Just try to think about the topic and try to interconnect that, how this might have, in simplest of your words, in simplest manner that you might think. Okay. And what you can do is, I'm telling you a very basic exercise, that when you are reading up a newspaper, when you are reading the editorial articles that are there, what you can do, you can just read the article first, then think about it, try to interconnect it with different things. Let us say if there is an environmental issue, that is, so there was an issue of the redefining of the Aravalli Mountains that we have seen last year around December. So what are the reasons because of which that redefinition might have occurred? That the scientific analysis of when the definition was last adopted, the methods by which it was defined, it has gone a significant change after that because of the advent of technology that is there. And we have seen that because of immense pressure upon these resources, which is leading to mining in some of the regions, is one of the factors that have led to the redefinition of the Aravallis. So when when you're reading up something, just do a simple exercise, try to connect it with your society. Knowledge is basically an aggregation of the information that is there in our surrounding. Let us say if we are reading something, then we are having different things in our room, let us say. So it is aggregation of all these things that adds up to the knowledge. Okay, so we would take an example here that how this interlinking can be done. Okay, so we have taken the topic of critical minerals, and we all know that the criticality of this particular topic has increased, and it is at its highest at this point of time. Okay, when significant changes have taken with respect to the information communication technology or the industrial revolution 4.0, because of which these critical minerals, they are very significant, and they act at the substratum of the evolution of these industries. Some of the critical minerals which are, so how do we connect this particular topic with different papers or different disciplines that are there? So we all know that India has identified and made a consolidated list of around 3 critical minerals. So critical minerals are basically something that a country finds to be very critical, and each one of the country, they have different definition, different list of what constitutes critical minerals for them. Let us say for Australia, the list would be different. For India, the list would be different. That would depend upon the criticality of the need that the nation is particularly having. Okay, so this is the basic concept that you would be doing, that what is a critical mineral actually. Okay, then we would come up that if we talk about India particularly, then what all are the critical minerals? So India has identified 30 critical minerals, and among them as well, lithium is one of the prominent critical minerals that is found in India. So basically in Jammu and Kashmir, lithium is basically found. So the Riyasi district or the Riyasi region in Jammu and Kashmir is the area where lithium is found. Okay, so how toppers and the rank holders, how do they see this particular topic? So we would read everything about the critical minerals and live it, and how a person who is scoring very well in the GS papers or optional papers, how they approach these particular topic. They would try to establish those interlinkages. They would try to do the basic foundational work, the discussion of the concept. What does it actually mean? The definition of it. What are the different areas where different critical minerals are found? They would try to make a map where they would try to chart out the important critical minerals of India. Let us say we are in process of figuring out lithium in Rajasthan, in parts of Rajasthan as well. We have already done that in Jammu and Kashmir, Riyasi region. Now we are doing in Nagaur district, Degana as well. So what they would do is they would try to map that thing out. They would try to simplify things up for themselves, so that it becomes simple for them to revise, to read them, and most importantly to absorb them as well. Okay, so critical minerals and its interlinkage to different topics. First, it would be covered under the economic geography in GS paper 1. When we are reading this topic of critical minerals in general studies paper 1, we have already seen from the nature of questions that have been asked that what are the dimensions upon which UPSC might focus. It would be their distribution. They might ask you that list out the regions within which the lithium resources are generally found in India. Second, location factors. What are the geological regions or geographical regions as a result of which these resources are found? Okay. Next would be what are the resource potential. Adding to this, what we can do is that what are the challenges that India is facing with respect to the exploration of lithium as a resource, okay, or critical minerals per se. Then comes the general studies paper 2. So we are trying to systematize or try to make a structure in our mind of how this interconnection thing actually works. We have seen for one topic, we have seen that how this is applicable in GS paper 1. Now So I would like to add a thing here. When you are trying to bring that multidimensionality or that diversity in your points, what you can do is just do one thing: memorize the whole syllabus of all the GS papers. And when you are writing an particular answer, start from general studies paper to bring that diversity of points. First section in GS paper 1 is history, then is geography, then society. GS paper 2, political, governance, then you have international relations. GS paper 3, economic, environmental, scientific, internal security, then ethical. So these are dimensions from each one of the GS papers which we are taking as a larger framework, and we can utilize them in bringing out that diversity in the content that we are trying to write. Okay. So moving on to, with respect to critical minerals in general studies paper 2, what happens is that how can we see this topic, that we all see that the global supply chains, we can connect it to the global supply chains that are there, that how some of the countries which are having a monopoly over these resources, how they are weaponizing these particular, the control over these particular resources, the processing of these particular resources. Let us say China is currently the export hub from where the critical minerals are processed, they are refined, and they are made into chips, semiconductors, which are largely exported to different parts of the world. So it is here that we can connect it to the geopolitics of critical minerals or semiconductors particularly. Second is the resource nationalism that have started occurring. Like the phenomena, it is said that the phenomena of deglobalization, it is going on. And how can we see that such a phenomena is going on? That the different types of nationalism that we are seeing. During COVID, we have seen vaccine nationalism. Now we are seeing the weaponizing of these control over these resources, because there is a theory of natural advantage theory, which say by Adam Smith. This theory says that certain, because of the geographical location, because of different geographies in different parts of the world, we see the existence of different resources in different parts of the world. Okay, so if China is having an advantage, let us say there is a lithium triangle that exists in the South American countries, or some of the critical minerals which exist in China, so they are having a natural advantage of these resources. They can weaponize it. They can held these things against nations for their vested interests, for their ulterior motives, or for making some pressure upon the nations as well. So it is here that we can explore the idea of resource nationalism, how supply chain they are impacted, and they can be weaponized by certain countries. So that we have seen with respect to paper 2. Next comes GS paper 3. How can we connect the topic of critical minerals with general studies paper 3? We can connect it to when we are talking about electrical vehicles. We all know that EVs, they need they are made up with chips, they are made up with semiconductors and certain inputs which are crucial, and they are generally formed from the critical resources or critical minerals that are there. We also are transitioning towards the renewable energies, within which solar energy becomes very important, given that India, most of its renewable energy, it is coming from solar energy only. So when we are talking about the significance of solar energy, we cannot overlook our hold over the critical minerals. So it is here that we can connect with renewable energy as well. We can connect with the electrical vehicles. We can connect with the energy storage. We are seeing that the lithium batteries, which are largely acting as the bedrock of energy storage across the world, it is derived from the resources of lithium. So the countries need to have some control over it. We have our own national critical minerals mission that has been outlined by the government. So for the 3 papers, this can be connected to the issue of let us say some ethical issues. We have already discussed it, that certain countries are taking advantage because of the location and processing of certain minerals. So this can be cited as one of the ethical reasons as well when we are seeing with respect to the international relations. We can connect it to environment and utilize this in essays as well. So we have discussed this X factor, which is the linking of the issues. So I would just revise the two: structured thinking, then structured thinking, the framework, how you have to prepare that framework while you are reading, while you are making the notes, while you are writing. So all these things, they have to be integrated. Second is the interconnection of the issues or topics that is there. Third would be the micro themes and PYQs. Though we have tried to discuss it, I would just take another example. So within these X factor notes that are provided at Civilsdaily, we have already said that what they are basically trying to do is first identify the larger subjects that are there. So we are talking about particularly geography. Geomorphology becomes very important here. Then climatology, oceanography, environmental and biogeography, and finally the economic geography. So these are the major themes within geography as a subject with respect to GS paper 1. Then we would be moving upon the micro themes. Of these themes, we would divide them into certain micro themes. What all are the micro themes that are there? So I'll give you an example. These are the themes. Water resource is a theme within which we have tried to identify 5 to 7 areas: groundwater resources, water management, modern water management practices, and all these mineral resources, energy resources. And within these energy resources, we talk about solar power, wind power, hydrogen, nuclear energy. So the idea is that when you are referring to the previous year questions, and when you would be identify certain areas. So I've said this in the initial of the discussion only, that we of all the 4 GS papers, we have largely identified around 450 micro themes that are there, which includes all these things. It includes energy resources, it includes population, it includes migration, it includes urbanization, it includes uh, the issues related to women, it includes globalization as a theme or micro theme. So we have segregated that. We have tried to identify the questions that have been asked from these particular themes and what are the dimensions that have been covered. So the first is the topic or the micro theme that you can say. Then what has been done, the micro themes within this topic, micro theme. Then this micro theme is divided into different dimensions. So let us talk about a geographical phenomena, that tsunami. We have been discussing this thing only, tsunami as a topic. Then uh, sorry, geomorphology we would talk about. Then tsunami as a micro theme. Within tsunami as well, what is tsunami, where they occur, how they occur, the how of them, and impacts. So a topic, a micro theme, and then the dimensions which they try to ask. Okay, so this has to be the structure while you are reading, while you are making your notes and revising things up. Okay, so this has been done for most of the papers. We are particularly talking about geography. So I would again do this thing for a different subject, which is oceanography. Let us do this for geomorphology. So this is a topic from where questions are asked many a times in geography. In 25 only they have asked, discuss how the changes in shape and size of continents and ocean basins of the planet take place due to tectonic movements of the crustal masses. So basically this is talking about the plate tectonics theory. So this is an important topic or an important micro theme within geomorphology upon which UPSC tries to ask question. Here they have asked the idea of plate tectonics theory in entirety. Sometimes they might ask you that discuss about the convergent plate boundaries, discuss about the divergent plates with examples. How does it impact the local geomorphologies or the landforms of the areas where these generally occur, where all are the divergent plate boundaries are found across the world. So when you are reading a particular topic, look upon these things only. Let us say you are I would sort of expand this thing only, that you are reading about, let us say, convergent plate boundaries. Then where convergent plate boundaries occur, you would identify where. First is the mid Atlantic ridges, the mid oceanic ridges which are found. Okay, it is here that we see the convergence of plate boundaries. We An example of it could be the mid Atlantic ridge. We also see that in the Pacific plate that is there, it is also converging with the Asian plate or the Eurasian plate that is there. So you would see the areas where these plates are found, what kind of geographic features it is leading to, what features it is leading to. When two plates converge, either they would fold. When they will fold, they will make mountains, plateaus, and such landforms. And when two plates converge and one subsides another, oh, the lighter plate, oh sorry, the denser plate, when it subsides under the lighter plate, it will form trenches. It will create issues of, let us say, earthquakes. It will create volcanoes. We also see the formation of islands. The prominent example is the Japanese island, or the islands found in that region. They are formed as a result of those volcanic activities only. Okay, so this is how you can do that. So for geography X factor notes, we have done that. First, we have made answer frameworks, the templates that are there. I'll briefly discuss the templates as well. We are taking the example of geomorphology only, that when you are writing an answer for geomorphology, what you will do is that you would first define the particular thing. If it is talking, let us take an example only, that what are how are fjords formed. So when you are so this was a question on fjords. Okay, on fjords. So when you would be talking about fjords, how would you start your answer? How will you start this answer? You would define the particular thing, that what a fjord actually is. In your introduction, what you will do, definition or a basic classification. Even if you are not having a standard definition, try to frame one in your own words. That would be your introduction. Just give an example of some fjord that if you remember. Okay, then comes the main body, within which you would explore all the dimensions that are asked by the examiner, which areas it is focusing upon. So what you will do here is, how are fjords formed? One, two, how they constitute some of the picturesque areas of the world. Okay, so first dimension that you would be covering up here is that how fjords are formed. That would be the first part of your main body. Then you will say that how the movement of glaciers, how when the glaciers move and when they withdraw, then these glacial valleys that are largely there, we see that in the higher latitudes only, that when glaciers move, they create certain spaces, and then the glaciers, either they melt or something of that, then they create certain valleys there. So it is these valleys which are generally the fjord areas. So you would make a very simple diagram in the main body part, where you would explain that how fjords are formed. You can say that how the glaciers move and they create certain spaces. So it is these glacial valleys which are largely fjords. You would make one, how these are formed. Second diagram that you can make here is, you can make the map of world and chart out the areas where these fjords are generally found. These we see generally in the Scandinavian countries on. We see certain fjords that are formed in these regions. So it is a geographical feature of higher latitudes, where the glaciers have moved and they created valleys, and now either water has been filled into these glacial valleys, which are forming the fjords. So you can make two diagrams, one for the phenomena, second for the distribution. So keep this thing in mind, when you are dealing with the question of geography, you can make two diagrams in most of the questions. What are those two diagrams? First is with respect to the particular phenomena or that particular topic. Second is geography also discusses about spatial distribution. I have said this: phenomena, spatial distribution, and interconnection. First diagram would be with respect to phenomena. When they are talking about tsunami, let's say, you will say that this is the trigger of a tsunami, and these are the waves, and and it makes landfall. So first is the diagram that you have made, that how tsunamis are formed. Second diagram that you can make is which all are the areas where tsunamis are generally found to be occurring. So you can make those diagrams. So we are discussing the template of the question. Introduction, the basic definition or the classification of the topic. Main body would entirely depend upon the dimensions that they are trying to focus upon. But keep in mind that try to include one or two diagrams. And I've told you the trick that how can you make the diagram. First, the phenomena. Second, its distribution. They have covered some of the pointers which can be utilized in most of the answers of geomorphology. Same is been done for oceanography, for climatology. So you can refer to these notes, and this is how you reduce your efforts. And when you reduce your efforts, you save some of your time, and then this time can be utilized in implementing these things. So what happens with we also have done this mistake, that what we do, that we spend most of our time in either collecting the resources or reading into them. But there's an important part which is the practice part also. This would be the aspect which is most important with respect to examination. This would be the thing that would stay with you while you would be writing answer, while you would be solving MCQ questions. So it is this practice part which largely gets ignored because of our wasted efforts and because of our more involvement into collecting materials and all that. So if you are having access to some material which gives you that structure, which gives you those points which are important, which can be utilized in most of the answer, so these templates gives you that idea, and it helps your mind to work or function in such a manner that the next time, let us say you have referred to 10 templates of this kind, the next time when you would be reading a particular topic, this template would be embedded in your mind in such a way that the next time you would process a similar information, then you would extract only those areas or those dimensions from that particular topic which would fit into these templates and which are important from the perspective of the examination. Okay, so this has been done for economic geography. First, they have identified the previous year questions that is there. With these PYQs, we can identify the micro themes, the dimensions of those micro themes upon which questions are generally framed. So it gives us certain degree of predictability as well, that when the next time they ask you a question on a particular theme from geomorphology, then you would be having this thing in mind that look, these are the 5 areas upon which they might ask the question. So we are just exploring the possibilities of reducing our efforts. We do not know, they might frame questions in a different manner, but what we can do is just to reduce some efforts. Okay, so these templates have been prepared for all the 5 areas that I've discussed, that is oceanography, climatology, and about environmental and economic geography. Okay, moving on to, so this talks about that only, that population and migration. Within this, what you have to focus. So it is again a very important theme in geography, population and migration. When it comes to population, they generally ask you questions. First, with respect to the developing countries, they are facing this issue of the boom of the population, and the developed world, it is facing the issue of depopulation threat or underpopulation. So this is one thing that is generally asked with respect to population. The north-south divergence that is there, the policies with the anti-natalist policies or the pro-natalist policies with respect to the population growth. Next, one thing that helps you when you look from these perspective, I will give you an example here, which I often quote. They've asked in 2024 that what is demographic winter? So this question was asked in 2024. So most of the students, and it is very natural, there is a limit up to which we can read topics. Even if it is population, then there is a limit up to which we can do that. So it is here that when you do the things smartly, when you bring in the X factors things into play, it is here that these things help. Demographic winter, most of us do not know, and almost all of us have to guess that particular thing, that what is demographic winter. But we know one particular thing from the previous year questions, that when UPSC tries to ask a question on population, they focuses upon this aspect or this dimension with respect to a population question. They might ask you about, I've already said that how developing world is facing the overpopulation or the tremendous growth of population within the developing world, vis-a-vis the developed world, which is undergoing a depopulation threat. So when I read this term demographic winter, one, demography, something related to population. So it is a question related to population. Second is winter. What winter suggests me? It either suggests me some kind of shrinkage, cold something, something that reduces something, some productivity, anything that comes to your mind, but something that brings some kind of stagnation. And you already have this thing in mind while you were referring to the PYQs. Now you would be able to connect that what is demographic winter. So demographic winter is basically the declining population that is happening in certain parts of the world. So it is, if you get this much of idea, then you would be able to deal that question very effectively. So do this smart work. This is the X factor that differentiates a good copy and an average copy. I'm not saying that people do not work hard. Most of the people who are preparing for this examination, they do the hard work, but that in itself is not sufficient. Doing it the right way, it is very important. So it is here that such things they become very important. So we have identified different areas: mineral resources, water resources, energy resources, urbanization as a theme, regional planning, different sectors of economy. We see that these questions are asked. Okay, again, there's no point in repeating these things in detail. We have already discussed that how that multidimensionality has to be there within your answers. One is the pastel approach. Second is the approach that I have discussed, that go through all the important topics of the 4GS papers, starting from paper 1, that let us say you are exploring some of the causal factors behind a particular topic. First, you would identify if there is an historical reason to that. Second, if there is a geographical reason to that, any societal, political, if there's an international connection that might be established, some economic reason to that particular issue, some issue related to governance, some related to environment. And this way you would go through the important topics of all the GS papers and bring that aspect of multidimensionality within your answers. Again, this is the next X factor, which is the maps, diagrams, and the data that you can include within your answers, and that will enhance the validation part of your answers, which is basically a map that you can make in most of the answers. If we are talking about geography here, then I've already told you how can you make the maps in each one of the geography answers. Anything and everything that you find in any of the papers which involves something related to space, something related to location of a particular thing, be it a question of history, be it a question of let us say international relations, be it a question of internal security, environment, science and technology, anything, if that involves an element of space, place, location, then what you can do, you can bring out a map there. It is very easy. I always give this example to students, that I was writing in 2023 a question of history where I made a map. So the question was that how does geography of a place impacts its history? So this was the question. So how can you simply make the map of India? Then the question was that how does geography of a place impacts its history? When we talk about geography, what comes to our mind? Either the mountains, the rivers, the prominent rivers that are there. How does it has impacted the history? We have a very good example of Harappan civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, that we can look at different sites. The Gangetic civilization, it has evolved because of the rivers. The civilizations, they have prominently evolved around the rivers. The cradle of the civilization is largely associated with the rivers. We also see that how the some of the tribes which have invaded the parts of India in the ancient times, there were certain geographical regions as a result of which they have moved. You can show that flow, that how Hunas, how Greeks, the Kushanas, how they have moved into India. So this is how you try to bring that maps and diagrams. Okay, and you guys are having sufficient time at this moment. While you are writing your answer, take out half an hour, take out 20 minutes, think about that particular question. If I can include a diagram here, if I can include a data point here, do that exercise, make use of AI tools, make use of Claude, ChatGPT, write that particular question and give a good prompt that says that try to bring in a diagram, try to bring in multidimensionality, try to bring in different points, give a good prompt and try to compare with your answer. Once you do that 5 to 10 times, then you get an idea as to how things have to be approached. This will start getting embedded into your memory. Your mind would start functioning in a similar manner. Diagrams for processes, a number, that is basically again the data that we were talking about. Then some theory that you might sign. So this is just an example that how for water resources. So what I used to do is that I used to make certain sheets, let us say for general studies paper 1 or for economics section or for geography. I would particularly maintain 5 to 6 sheets which will includes only the facts. This you will collect from any material like X factor notes, from the newspapers, from the tests that you write, the model answers that are there, from the toppers copies that are there. So try to collect from all these things and consolidate them on one place. And by the end of 1 year, you would have a good repository of data sets, which will also include good reports, good citations, different committees that are useful with respect to that particular subject. So try to do that thing. So this is just an example that for water resources, these are some of the data points that can be utilized. We have already said that 25% of the groundwater of the total planet that we are talking, it is done by India only. 78% of the freshwater resources, they go to the agriculture sector only. Only 30% of the wastewater is recycled. So prepare these templates, prepare these sheets, prepare these materials, so that when you revise them after let us say a particular interval, these things will start getting embedded in your mind. Okay, so this is basically the difference between how you do things uh, without the X factors versus with the X factors that are there. And believe me guys, these X factors that we are discussing is not something that demands much of your work, uh, of your time. This is not something that needs some extra talent from the candidates. These are simple exercises. It is just that it involves certain time of yours where you are systematizing things. It is the systematic study only which is the X factor. Okay, so what a student generally do is that they finish their booklets, all the booklets are there. Sir, I've read the polity Laxmikant 10 times. Sir, I've read GC Leong 10 times, but I'm not able to write answers. I've seen that with respect to the people who are writing mains as well, that they are saying such a thing that, sir, I remember whole of the GC Leong, but I'm not able to write a geography answer. And and sometimes when I see those copies, I see that they have written an answer which involves no structure. It does not involve any diagram. It does not involve any concept. They are just writing haywire. So that doesn't help. And it does not mean that you have not read, that you have not put in your hard works and your efforts. It is just that you have to make that thing more systematic. it has it has to have some order. It has to have some structure into it, so that when the examiner sees to your copy, it is after all an competitive examination where you would be assessed with respect to some other candidate. So if a candidate is providing that particular information in such a framework that it reduces the efforts of the examiner, it reduces uh, the efforts that the examiner is putting in, then you would see things getting differently for both the candidates, vis-a-vis with the candidate who is writing things very haphazardly. Okay, I've read the books, I know the facts about minerals monsoons described in prose. They write in big paras. People generally suggest that you write in the points format, recalls the data vaguely. So this is one aspect that I was trying to focus. That when you are writing a particular data, when you are covering up a particular topic, just try that you cover up certain basic data points with respect to that topic very well. That you cannot say that a good part of, we have taken example that a large share of it goes to agriculture sector only. It is a good point. It is valid as well, that we have seen that around 78% of the freshwater resources, they go to the agriculture sector only. But it would be better when we write it 70% vis-a-vis that a large part of it, a large share of it. So it becomes a bit generic and vague. Vis-a-vis with a student who is writing a data point, it is not that you have to write 78 only. You can write to more than two-thirds, more than three-fourths of it. So this would contextualize the thing in a better manner. Skip the map, no time to practice. And when we are talking about the diagrams, I also need to highlight this thing here, that diagrams are supplementary. They are there to save your time. They are there to save your efforts. So when you are making a diagram, you don't have to make in such a manner that it is consuming lot of your time. That you have started making a map or a diagram, and out of the 7 minutes that you are devoting to a 10 marker, 4 minutes have already gone into making that diagram beautiful. So don't do that. Just that the diagrams have to be indicative. They are labeled well, and they are sketched in a manner that they convey the idea. Okay, that's the whole point. What is that thing after mastering of the X factors that we have tried to cover in our discussion, is that I can answer the PYQs. So one who is doing things in a structured manner that we have discussed, they would be able to deal the previous year questions. They would be able to better handle and comprehend the previous year questions and write good answers upon them. Second is they bring the multidimensionality, which again is the frameworks that are there. They utilize the templates that have been prepared. They make their own templates according to their uh, to their knowledge and practice, that they evolve over a period of time. So it is not that you have to follow these templates only. They are indicative. They gives you a direction, and either you build upon these or you prepare your own templates in a manner that you are comfortable with. Okay, so how does a 15 marker question would generally look like? So first is again the introduction part, that it will be the introduction. It will either include a definition, a concept, or a data point. So we are just trying to wrap things up here, which will include that how the question would look like. Then some map or diagram have been included, multi-dimensional body, examples and schemes into that, and a way forward at the end of it. So this is a basic indicative distribution of the marks as well, that introduction, main body, and the whole framework that it have. We have already discussed that how these things have to be integrated, both while you are reading the things up and also when you are revising things up or writing an answer. Okay, moving on to the sixth X factor, which is the last one, that what are the things which after doing all this work that that students generally deploy, who are doing well into this examination. What all are the things that they are doing? They have systematically read the things, they have systematically made the notes, they are writing the answers well. It is here that the role of the revision, it becomes very important. So it's a whole cycle in itself. First, you collect the information, which is covering up the resources, making the notes and everything up. Then you practice things up. Then comes the feedback component of it, that after collecting, revising things up, practicing things up, you get the feedback and you improve, and again this cycle goes on. So this, in the second round, this would be collected with revision, with value addition, part, then again practice, feedback, and this cycle goes on and on. So this is how this thing basically works. So for that, you need to have a good revision plan. What people generally do, according to their schedules, according to their own study plans, they make different approaches to revise things up. But a standard approach that people generally follows is that you tend to follow things after, let us say, 2 to 3 days, once you have read them the first time or the second time. So you can make a revision cycle on your own, which will, I'm just giving you a reference example, which is that you have read the thing on the first day, revise them after a week, then revise them after a month, and then when you are practicing things up, you would revise. So try to bring that order in your revision cycle, in the frequency of revisions that you are doing, so that it becomes easy for you. And by the end, when you are nearing to the examination, it is not in such a manner that you have not revised things up. So of the X factors that we have been discussing, of all the things that are there, revision again becomes very important. Next is having a good answer writing routine as well. So it is very important. It is here that I will shortly highlight or compare two things, that either you are writing a test paper, let us say after 15 days, and you are writing that twice in a month. There is this one student who is doing this exercise. Second one is the student who is writing one question only, but each day for the 30 days, or let us say 25 out of the 30 days. So there would be a difference between both the candidates with respect to the skill set they develop at the end of let us say this month. When we compare these two students, you would see that the student who was doing impulsive writing, that writing one paper today, writing the next paper after 15 days, and so on, that student is largely doing an exercise which is impulsive in nature. I'm not saying that it will not have any pros. It will have its own advantages. But when it comes to, when we are building things up, when we are doing the foundational work, and when we are having enough time for that, then having the second approach, that you are writing, let us say, one answer every day for 25 days, you have written 25 questions, compared to a student who have written 10 questions in after 15 days, or let us say twice in a month. So the student have first written less number of questions. Second, the growth that the student might have observed had the student written the questions on a regular basis. So when you do things on a regular basis, when you repeat them on daily basis, you see that changes that are happening within your answers. First day you are writing a very bad answer, you ask one of your friend, and you get certain remarks or feedbacks that you are writing in big paras. Try to write in points format. Second day you wrote in the points format, and you wrote more points, and you are not able to cover the dimensions properly. You would, the next day your task would be to concise that thing into 2 dimensions, let us say, and systematize that particular thing. So when you do things on a regular basis, when you do things consistently, they build, and they, you are able to see that change at a small scale. So it is always suggested that when you are doing the starting part, do small things, because it is at this scale that we are able to observe and we are able to realize that that change that is happening. Okay. Again, third is the retention part of it. So how do you do that thing effectively? You can do that once you have read through your material, consolidated them, gone through the X factor notes. Then you would prepare certain retention sheets which would be of such nature that you are only occupying, let us say you are covering 5 topics on one single page. So it is these retention sheets which would help you by the end one, because if you get indicative information about a topic, let us say you have read a topic for 5 times, and then extracted 5 important points from that and made it, sorry, you have included that in your revision sheet or in retention sheet. So the next time you would be referring to the retention sheet, of the 5 points that you are reading, you would be able to revise all the things that you have previously read. So this is how it helps you. Okay. So moving on to the last things, which is that how do you actually build these X factors? So there is a very basic formula that you will start with the foundational work. You do the small things first and then gradually build upon that. First is the foundation that you would be doing, referring to the basic books, referring to the NCRTs, the reference books that are there. Then you would start gradually, once you have read them twice or thrice, you would start establishing those interlinkages between the topics, between different subjects, and all the things that we have discussed. Then you would test yourself up with by writing a test, by writing an answer, or practicing an MCQ. Then you would move on to the feedback cycle, the simulate, and try to improve upon the things that are there. So this is the basic things. So again, it is very important that you self-assess yourself. You build upon the things that we have discussed. And for one last time, again, showing you these X factor notes, just the index part of it, that how this thing particularly works. First, the answer writing framework of every discipline. This would be there for each one of the subjects that are there. I'm only taking the geography section. Okay. Then the different important themes or micro themes that are there. Within these micro themes, it has been covered the basic concept, the definitions, the basic data points, the diagrams, examples, and everything that is needed, the different dimensions or aspects that have been asked in the previous years of this examination. So these things have been covered. And once you do this amount of work, it is very less that would be left after that. Something that would be left after that is your own efforts. Okay, the amount of efforts that you put in while presenting that thing up, while writing that thing, while writing your answers. Okay, so you can refer to these materials. They gives you that order and structure that we have discussed throughout our lecture. And of all the X factors that we have discussed, that how you gradually build upon the things, just to revise things one last time in very short, that what all are these X factors, that you bring that structure, bring that interlinkages when you are doing things up, preparation with respect to the micro themes, identification of the important topics with respect to the examination, bringing that multidimensionality in your answers, in your thought process. Next comes the value addition part, which will include the data points, the maps, diagrams, and everything. Okay, so of all the X factors that we have discussed till now, there is one X factor which is most important, and of all the things that we have done, you would be doing all these things in a better manner if the X factor that I'm discussing now is strong from your side. That X factor is you only. The clarity that you bring while you are preparing, the clarity of your purpose, of your vision with respect to this examination, the discipline and the dedication that you bring, particularly for this examination, and your intent, that thing, intent, your honesty, and everything that makes you as a person who is actually willing to pursue this examination. So please don't do this examination just that you are doing it out of order, you are doing it haywire. Do it with system, do it with order, and it is you would see that it is not anything magical that is there. The magic lies and the X factor lies in these small things only. So keep building upon these things, do the very basic things and small things first, and the way ahead, it would be seen by you only. It is not that you can chart out everything of your preparation at the starting point only. It is with right efforts and honest efforts that when you would be building upon things, you would find the right way ahead that would be needed. So with this all, I wish you all the best, and thank you so much. Thank you for this session.